Okay, so let's talk about the mixer brush. I'm just gonna turn this off and create a new layer, and we'll do kind of the same thing actually. Let's bring in, just so I don't have to repaint these, we'll actually just duplicate this layer. So bloop, right there. There's my copy, and then using the eraser just so that I can kind of get through this quicker. We'll get through, we'll kind of get through these different colors here. So we're just right back to where we were before with these. But this time I'm going to be using the mixer brush. You can switch between brushes by holding down Shift and B. And we want to make sure that we've got that little drop there. And same thing, I can still use my option to select. And so I'm using my red. But, and then we'll use our yellow, and you can kind of see how the two things kind of mix together a little bit more. And the more that I'm mixing, the more you can see it brings the yellow into the item. Same thing here, go over here, the more it's going to bring a little bit more of that red in there. So this is going to feel a little bit more natural. Let's talk a little bit about what these items up here do. Now you've got your wetness. The wetter something is, you want to kind of keep this kind of low. The wetter it is, the more it's going to really strongly mix with something. So once again, just holding down here, you can see that that wetness is really kind of mixing much more. If you want to have a little bit more control, bringing your wetness down some is going to be helpful. All right, the mix is going to be how much things are mixing. The load is very similar to the amount of paint that you've brought onto your brush. This isn't as, and these things will kind of turn on as well. This isn't going to be as prominent when you're using a mouse, but if you're using a actual tablet, if you have like a lower amount of paint on there, or a lower percentage in the load section, when you go to paint, it'll actually run out like you would run out of paint on a brush. It doesn't do that so much with a mouse. So this not as important on a using a mouse, but really important to remember. And then also you've got your mix, so kind of how much is going to mix things, and the flow, just like before, the amount of paint that is going to kind of come out of the brush. All right, and I'll bring actually that flow down a little bit more to 30%, just so we can kind of keep things lower. And once again, playing with these to find what works best for you. So we can kind of do the same thing. You can see I've got a little bit of yellow there and a little bit of orange. Now the thing to be aware of with the mixer brush is that this is really trying to recreate painting. So the more that I move this around, the more of a mix I'm going to get. And like I said, for some of you, that might be exactly what you're looking for. And for others, it might not. So for instance, there, I kind of went a little bit too much with the color. So you're going to get a little bit more of this kind of oil-based look to your piece. That, bring some red, and now I've got my red orange. All right, so we can kind of go through and do a similar situation here. Here's the red. We'll do some more red in there. Some blue. Maybe a little bit more red. More blue. All right. And you can see as well, when I pick this up, this is like having a little bit of paint on the brush. It's not picking up the entire color. It's kind of picking up what I'm using. Another thing when you guys are going through and doing this painting with either the regular brush or the mixer brush, be aware that you probably want to kind of set up a little bit of a palette to begin with. Don't use all of these colors. Use kind of a limited colors like you would in traditional, as you would in a traditional painting class, and that way it's going to make sure that you don't get too much yuckiness happening. So you can see here you're going to maybe get a nicer set of green with this mixer brush than we've got with the other one. There we go. And we'll bring in that, a little bit more yellow in there maybe. There we go. There's our green. Bring in a little bit more yellow. We get our yellow-green. Same thing over here. So once again, play with both of these and see where, which works best for you. All right. And you can see the difference. So here is the oil-based. You can see kind of a lot more of a softness there. Things are going to be a lot more painterly. And then here, things are going to be a lot more precise with this method. No, one isn't better than the other. They're just different. And you can see that the color that we got at the end is pretty similar from one to another. All right. In the next section, we'll actually talk a little bit about methods of kind of creating and rendering with your painting.